The land was dry, not the kind of dry that comes after a few rainless days, but the bone-deep, cracked earth kind of dry that makes a man question whether God has forgotten his fields entirely. Elimelech had felt that dryness in his chest long before it ever touched his soil. And when the famine came to Bethlehem, he did what desperate men do. He left. He took his wife Naomi, his 2 sons Mahlon and Kilian, and walked away from the only home he had ever known. They went to Moab, a foreign land, a place where the gods had different names and the bread tasted of something unfamiliar. They went because they had no choice, or so they told themselves. But Elimelech never came back. He died in Moab, and the soil of a foreign country received him. His sons married Moabite women, Ruth and Orpah, and for 10 years the family breathed together in that in-between place, neither fully home nor fully foreign. Then the sons died too, and Naomi was left, an old woman, emptied of husband and children, in a land that was never truly hers. There is a particular kind of grief that doesn't announce itself loudly. It settles in quietly, like dust on unused furniture. Naomi carried that grief in every line of her face, in the way she moved, in the way she stopped laughing at the small things. She heard that Bethlehem had received rain again, that the Lord had visited his people with bread, and she decided to go back, to go home, even if home no longer had a place for her. She told her daughters-in-law to return to their own mothers, to start again. Orpah wept, kissed her, and went back. But Ruth would not go. And what she said in that moment became one of the most beautiful declarations of loyalty ever spoken by human lips. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. She chose Naomi. She chose a God she had only just begun to know. She chose an uncertain future over a comfortable past. And together, 2 broken women walked back toward Bethlehem. When they arrived, the whole town stirred. "Is this Naomi?" the women asked. And Naomi, whose name meant pleasant, told them to call her Mara instead. Bitter, because the Almighty had dealt bitterly with her. She had gone out full, she said, and come back empty. But she hadn't come back entirely empty. She had Ruth. And Ruth, still a stranger in this land, still learning the rhythms of Hebrew customs and Hebrew faith, woke up the next morning and said something extraordinary. She said, "Let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after him, in whose sight I shall find favor." She didn't wait. She didn't sit in the corner and mourn. She got up and went to work. Now, in those days, there was a law in Israel, a law of extraordinary compassion built right into the harvest. When farmers cut their grain, they were commanded not to go back and pick up what they had dropped. They were not to harvest the corners of their fields. Those portions belonged to the poor, the widow, the foreigner, the orphan. It was a welfare system written in wheat, a safety net woven into the very act of gathering. Ruth went out to gather what had been left behind, and it just so happened, though we know by now that nothing just happens, that the field she entered belonged to a man named Boaz. Boaz was not a young man. He was established, respected, successful. A man of great wealth, the text tells us, but also a man of great character, which is rarer and worth far more. He arrived at his field that morning and greeted his workers with a blessing, "The Lord be with you." And they answered back, "The Lord bless you." That exchange tells you everything about who Boaz was. A man who blessed his employees, a man whose workers blessed him back, not out of obligation, but out of genuine warmth. This was a man with a good house, yes, but more importantly, a good name. He noticed Ruth immediately. Of course he did. She was new, she was foreign, she worked with a focused intensity that set her apart. He asked his foreman, "Whose young woman is this?" And the answer he received carried weight. She is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. A Moabite, a foreigner, a widow. 3 strikes by the social calculations of the time. 3 reasons why a man of his standing might have simply nodded and moved on. 3 reasons to let her glean her small portion and leave it at that. But Boaz did not move on. He walked over to her, and what he said to Ruth in that moment is one of the most generous speeches in all of Scripture. He told her not to go to any other field. He told her to stay close to his young women. He told his men not to touch her. He told her she could drink from the water his servants had drawn, water she hadn't worked to pull from the well, water freely offered. Ruth fell on her face. She bowed to the ground, because she understood the magnitude of what was happening. She was a foreigner. She had no claim on his kindness, and yet kindness was exactly what he gave her. "Why have I found favor in your eyes," she asked, "that you should take notice of me since I am a foreigner?" And Boaz answered in a way that revealed he already knew her story, all of it. "All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, how you left your father and mother and your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." He saw her, not as a foreigner, not as a liability. He saw a woman of extraordinary character who had chosen loyalty when she could have chosen comfort, and he honored that choice. At mealtime, he invited her to eat with him. He passed her roasted grain with his own hands. He told his workers secretly to pull out grain from the bundles and leave it for her on purpose, to make the gleaning easier, more abundant. She worked until evening and beat out what she had gathered, about an ephah of barley, a remarkable amount, far more than a day's gleaning should have produced. She brought it back to Naomi, along with the food she had saved from lunch. And Naomi, who had called herself Mara, bitter, sat up straight for the first time in a long time. "Where did you glean today?" she asked. "Blessed be the man who took notice of you." When Ruth told her the name, Boaz, something shifted in Naomi's eyes, because Naomi knew something Ruth didn't yet know. She knew that Boaz was family. She knew he was what the Hebrew law called a goel, a kinsman redeemer, a relative with both the right and the responsibility to redeem what had been lost. "The man is a close relative of ours," Naomi said. "He is one of our redeemers." And the wheels of an ancient sacred plan began to turn. Now, and this is the part of the story that many people rush past, there was a problem. Boaz was not the only kinsman redeemer. There was another man, closer in relation, who had the first right of redemption. The law was clear. That man had to be offered the opportunity first. Boaz could not simply step in and claim Ruth and Naomi's inheritance. He had to do things properly. He had to go through the proper channels, even when he may have already known what he wanted. That is a remarkable thing about Boaz. He didn't cut corners. He didn't use his wealth or influence to bypass the process. He went to the city gate, the place where legal matters were settled, where elders gathered, where the business of the community was conducted in the open. And he waited. He found the other kinsman redeemer and sat him down with 10 elders as witnesses. He explained the situation. Naomi was selling the piece of land that had belonged to Elimelech. Did this man want to redeem it? The man said yes. Of course he did. Land is land. But then Boaz added the second part, the part the man hadn't calculated for. "The day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the dead, in order to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance." Ruth came with the land. The widow came with the field. And suddenly the math changed for this other man, because redeeming Ruth meant his own inheritance would be complicated. It meant taking on a foreign widow, providing for her, and raising children that would carry another man's name and another man's legacy. He said, "I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I impair my own inheritance. Take my right of redemption yourself, for I cannot redeem it." He took off his sandal and handed it to Boaz. That was the custom, the ancient seal of a transferred right. And Boaz, before all the elders, before all the people at the gate, made his declaration. "Today you are witnesses that I have bought from the hand of Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech, and all that belonged to Mahlon and Chilion. Also Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Mahlon, I have bought to be my wife, to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance, that the name of the dead may not be cut off from among his brothers, and from the gate of his native place. He bought the land. He married the widow. He redeemed what had been lost. In the ancient Near East, that act had a name. It was called hesed, loving kindness, the same word used to describe God's covenant love for his people. And here is where the story expands beyond two people in a field in ancient Bethlehem. If you've been paying attention, and I suspect that something in you has been pulled forward by this story for a reason, you may have noticed that this is not just a love story. It is a picture of something larger, something cosmic. We are Ruth, foreigners, far from the Father, widowed from the life we were meant to live, gleaning in a field that isn't ours, hoping someone notices us, hoping someone is kind. And there is a kinsman redeemer, one who saw us working in the field, one who already knew our story before we ever approached him. One who said, "Stay close, drink from my water, don't go to any other field." One who left extra grain in the path on purpose, more grace than we ever expected, more than we ever deserved. And like Boaz, he did not cut corners. He went through the proper process. He fulfilled every requirement of the law. He sat at the gate, or rather he hung on a cross, and made his declaration before witnesses, before heaven and earth. "I will redeem her. I will take her as my own. Let her name be written in the inheritance." The other kinsmen, the law itself, stepped aside, because the law could not redeem us without destroying itself. Only love could do what needed to be done. Now, before we get to the ending of this story, I need to pause here and ask you something. Are you still gleaning in fields that don't belong to you? Are you still trying to gather enough from places that were never meant to sustain you? Relationships that drain you, approval that never satisfies, achievements that fill the basket but leave the soul empty. There is a field with your name on it. There is a Redeemer who has already seen you working. He knows how long you've been at it. He knows what it cost you to leave your homeland, your comfort, your old gods, and walk towards something new. And he is not going to make you earn what he has already decided to give. And if you haven't subscribed yet, listen, stay with us, because we are just getting to the part where Naomi stops calling herself bitter. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happens to a woman who thought God had forgotten her. Hit that subscribe button right now, because the next chapter of this story is going to undo something in you that needs undoing. Ruth and Boaz were married, and the Lord, who had been working through every ordinary moment of this story, through a famine, through a death, through a daughter-in-law's stubborn loyalty, through a wealthy farmer's early morning walk through his field, the Lord gave Ruth a son. The women of Bethlehem gathered around Naomi, the same women who had heard her say, "Call me Mara," the same women who had watched her walk back into town broken and empty. Now they stood around her holding this child, this impossible, beautiful, redemption-wrapped child, and they said, "Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a Redeemer, and may his name be renowned in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is more to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him." More than 7 sons. In a culture where sons were everything, wealth, legacy, security, honor, they said this foreign widow who chose loyalty over safety was worth more than 7 sons. Naomi took the child and held him to her chest, and the women gave him a name. They called him Obed. Obed would become the father of Jesse. Jesse would become the father of David. David, the shepherd boy, the warrior king, the man after God's own heart, would become the ancestor of Jesus of Nazareth. The widow's choice in a foreign field echoed forward through generations. Ruth's hesed, her covenant loyalty, flowed into the bloodline of the Messiah himself. Nothing was wasted, not the famine, not the deaths, not the years in Moab, not the long walk back to Bethlehem, not a single morning in the field, not a single handful of barley left behind by careful workers following secret instructions from a man who had already decided to be kind. There is a farmer in this story who almost could have turned away the widow. He could have let her glean her small portion and moved on. He could have respected the social boundaries of his time, protected his reputation, avoided the complication of a foreign woman with no status and no history in Israel. But he didn't, because he was a man who understood hesed, a man who had been loved by a God of extraordinary kindness and who had learned, in that deep way that changes how you walk through your own fields in the morning, that love is not love unless it costs you something. He saw her, he blessed her, he provided for her, he redeemed her, and in doing so he became part of a story that was always bigger than himself. You are part of a story that is bigger than yourself. The hard season you're in right now, the famine, the foreign land, the feeling of gleaning in a field that doesn't belong to you, it is not the end of the story. It may be the very field where your Redeemer is about to walk toward you and say, "Stay, don't go to any other field. I've already left extra grain in the path for you." The God who visited his people with bread when the famine was over, he is still visiting, still providing, still writing stories where the widows become mothers of kings, where the bitter ones are restored, where the foreigners become family. Don't leave the field. Stay close to the workers. Drink the water that's been drawn for you. And when evening comes, take what you have gathered back home and don't be surprised at how much it is, because the one who owns the field has already given secret instructions, and they were always in your favor. This story is found in the book of Ruth, one of the most beautiful human and redemptive narratives in all of Scripture. 4 chapters. Read them slowly, let them sit with you. And if today you feel like Naomi, empty, bitter, walking back from a place that took everything from you, remember, she came back with Ruth, and Ruth was enough to change everything. May you find your Boaz, may you know your Redeemer, and may your name be written into a story that echoes forward into eternity.